Cactus juice. It'll quench you. Nothing's quenchier. It's the quenchiest.
Hello there. Don't want to make anyone wait any longer, so real quick, welcome to Reddita, where we shamelessly ask you to subscribe and like the video if you enjoy it, and where we say to smash the bell and hate ourselves for it, while we go down an existential crisis mentally that slowly eats away at you day after day, video after video, late night of editing after late night of editing, until one day they find you on the roof barking at traffic with your underwear on your head blasting turn down for what from a speaker stuck in your whoa, sorry, blacked out there for a second. Anyway, on with the video. Enjoy. What is a survival myth that is completely wrong and could get you killed? Need to wait 24 hours to report a missing person. If you think someone is missing, report it as such. The faster a missing person report is filed, the greater the chance the person will be found. Especially if it's a child. Missing children are at high risk during the first 24 hours, especially if abducted. In 76% of child abduction murders, the victim was dead within 3 hours. 88.5% were dead in the first 24 hours. Edit. Source. It's actually a felony in some states to fail to report a child missing after a certain amount of time. Edit. Katie's Law. The YouTube videos on how to unarm an attacker from close range. You'll die before you can yell yee-haw. Yeah, if you have not trained extensively in real self-defense, you should never try to fight an armed opponent. Just give them what they want or run. Those videos usually have the person letting the moves be put on them very easily, when in reality a lot of those moves need to be executed at extremely fast speed with practiced precision. Otherwise you will just end up in a wrestling match against someone with a knife, which usually won't end well. There's a video of a soldier showing how to win in a knife fight. The countdown starts and as soon as possible he just books it. If you ever find yourself in snake country, make as much noise as possible. Most people want to avoid snakes, so stay quiet. But they are more scared of you than you are of them. Talk loudly. Stomp. But obviously keep an eye and ear out for any fellas who don't want you to be there. Source. Australian. Except for the death ladder, which will lie there and ignore 19 people stepping over it, then bite the 20th one who has the bad luck to step on it. Easy solution. Just get bit by a death subtractor. If you have to forage for food, avoid mushrooms entirely. Odds are so slim you will find an edible kind that you're much better off looking for things like nuts, seeds, and berries. Edit. This is not a myth. This is a truth. They also hold negligible amounts of calories, so even if you are knowledgeable about fungi it still isn't worth it. Guess the only scenario where you might go for it is if you have knowledge on edible mushrooms and stumble upon a grove full of them. Don't eat snow to stay hydrated if you're in a winter survival situation. Losing the heat to the snow while eating it is more dangerous than dehydration. Heat it up or let it melt in a container first to lose less heat. Wear a seatbelt. There's myths about it being bad if you go into a lake or there's a fire. But 1. That is an incredibly tiny proportion of car crashes, and 2. If you're in that situation, you're far more likely to be knocked out and die of inaction if you're not wearing a seatbelt. I know this is a mundane tip, but you're far more likely to be in a life-threatening car crash than be stabbed or be in a falling elevator. Wear a seatbelt. Wear your ducking seatbelt. Apparently passengers can smash into other passengers when they are not wearing seatbelts. Rescue breaths are wildly overrated in most movies and TV shows. You'll see someone in cardiac arrest, and the rescuer will stop giving compressions and focus on breathing into a person's mouth and blammo. Awake. Alert. Alive. No. Don't do that. Your body does store a fairly decent amount of oxygen in its blood at all times. If someone in front of you ODs and their mouth is covered with saliva, vomit, or someone collapses in front of you with a suspected cardiac arrest, your plan of action is twofold. Are they breathing? Do they have a pulse? This is easy to duck up, especially in a moment of panic. My rule, as an EMS provider, is that if you don't feel it in 10 seconds, it's not there. Start compressions. If they are not in cardiac arrest, they will let your ass know, and the law covers you under Good Samaritan clauses in most of these cases. If you are the only person attending to this body, Do not stop and give rescue breaths if help is on the way and will be there soon. It takes about 4-7 decent compressions to get blood recirculating in the body after stopping to give mouth to mouth. That's a lot of blood, carrying a lot of vital oxygen reserves that aren't making it to the brain. Obviously, if you're a long way out from help and you feel safe to do so, give rescue breaths. But it should never be priority number one. I work in an ER. A patient went suddenly unresponsive after standing up to get onto a cart. We weren't sure if we felt a pulse or not, but our 10 seconds was up. So my co-worker started compressions. Or I should say, compression. Singular. She delivered a single, high quality compression. And he immediately screamed and threw his arms and legs up. Turns out his BP dropped when he stood up, causing him to pass out. And was so low, we couldn't even feel a carotid pulse. I told that co-worker I want her doing my compressions should I ever need them. The opposite of One Punch Man. Herbivorous animals are friendly and peaceful, so you are safe being around them and their presence will show you where food is. Seriously, everything from cows to deer and will kill you if you make it angry. It is usually a good idea if you are in the wilds not to get near any large wild animal. But herbivores can often be even more aggressive than the predators. If a predator attacks you, you have a fairly good chance of scaring it off. Especially if it's smaller than you, because it's likely only looking for food. If a herbivore attacks you, you're ducked because it genuinely wants to kill you. If it's a predator, you just need to convince it that you aren't worth the effort. Especially if it's not too hungry. If it's a herbivore, that's just going to make it want to kill you more. Follow flying birds to find water. They can simply be flying to spend a night anywhere, so we can't rely on them. Fish are the ones you should follow to find water. That's why I always carry a goldfish on desert expeditions. You can hydrate from soda, if that's all you have. Drink it. Fallout New Vegas tells me otherwise. You get a cap though. If you get stabbed with anything, don't pull it out since it could be the thing that preventing you from bleeding out. Instead, immobilize it and go to the hospital where they can stop the bleeding when they remove the object. That knife is in your aorta. If you remove it, you'll bleed to death. Consider that a professional courtesy. Thanks, John. Really appreciate it. One I know of is the myth that you can drink water from a cactus. I heard it's false and you can only drink from a small minority of cacti without having certain health consequences I am not aware of. Suit yourself. It's very thirst quenching. It'll quench ya. The quenchiest.
Drink cactus juice. It'll quench ya. Nothing's quenchier. It's the quenchiest.
Okay, I think you've had enough.
Who lit Toff on fire?
Sucking a snake bite. It will often make it worse. Australian doc here. There is so much misinformation on here. What you want to do is stop the venom from traveling from the site of the bite into the lymphatic system and then into the bloodstream. Do not suck, cut, wash or otherwise investigate the wound. Edit. Do not try to catch or kill the snake. Identifying the kind of snake is not worth the risk of a second bite and the delay in getting to your other priorities. Priority 1, get away from the snake. Priority 2, get help. Get someone nearby to call an ambulance or worst case scenario call yourself. Edit. Leaving this here because it's hilarious. Priority 3, stay still. Moving your muscles is what helps pump the fluid through your lymphatic system and to the lymph nodes, where it can enter the bloodstream quickest. Ideally keep the bite below your heart, but immobilization is the most important thing. Priority 4. If there is someone with you, get them to apply a pressure dressing to tightly compress the whole limb. This can greatly slow the flow of lymph and buy you hours. Typo corrected from LB. Edit. I can only speak for what to do. Australian snakes. Other areas obviously have different species and perhaps correspondingly different guidelines. If you are doing outdoorsy crap in other continents, make sure you know basic first aid relevance to that specific location. Australian doc here. The Australian part is the more pertinent credential. Not quite a survival myth but interesting nonetheless. Paradoxical undressing. It is when you are hypothermic but still remove your clothes. Explains why dead people are sometimes found naked out in snowy ranges. It is usually during the final stages of hypothermia, and the theory is that your blood vessels give up on constricting blood flow to your skin peripheries, so you suddenly feel super warm and remove all your clothes, which in turn causes you to die quicker. Apparently slowly freezing to death starts at being cold with rising pain, then going numb, then getting pain bursts and shocks from your nerves glitching out, then a period of feeling nothing. Then as your body gives up, a second even worse burst of pain hits all your nerves for a certain amount of time. Then everything ceases and you slowly freeze to death. I always felt like freezing to death would be a quick and painless way to die, cause one would just slowly fall asleep. Guess that was a myth too. The first mistake is to look for food and water first before having a shelter up to keep yourself dry and warm. Edit. When I say shelter first, it includes having a fire too, which I forgot to mention. When you are wet and exposed to the elements, your core body temperature can drop and you can get hypothermia if it gets too cold, and you would burn more calories than necessary. A big reason to building a shelter too is to also keep yourself off the ground, because the ground is an infinite heat sink, which means you lose your body heat way faster than you would think and will be more exposed to the cold elements. Guys, yes, it's good to be near a water source, but remember that it's always colder around rivers, streams, lakes, and oceans. Make sure you are able to easily gather shelter/fire material within the area, plus finding a prime location to set up shelter. I feel like a book RN. Thanks for the silver. Shelter, water, food, in that order. Cotton wicks moisture. Cotton is probably the worst material to wear in an outdoor survival situation because it holds moisture and in doing so loses its ability to keep you warm. Punch a shark in the nose. As a diver, there was a joke that we're supposed to use our dive knives for shark attacks. We cut our dive buddy and swim away, hoping the shark would get them first. Are the old, you think you can outrun a cheetah? No, I just need to outrun you. Removing a bullet is more dangerous than leaving it in. Trying to remove it can tear vital organs. It can be pushed in even deeper, or removing it can cause the person to bleed out. Yep. There is pretty much no reason to ever go digging around in a gunshot wound in the field with a pair of pliers, trying to get a bullet out. Your only goal is to control bleeding and, if possible, prevent infection, and then get to a hospital. Because if you got gut or chest shot, you're going to die in one of many horrible, slow ways if you don't get into surgery. There is one good reason the dink it makes when it hits the metal tray after being released from the mustard. It won't kill you, but don't pee on a jellyfish sting. It will actually release more of the toxin. Pee directly on the jellyfish to show dominance. That's for stinging my wife. Lots of Southeast Asians believe going from heat to aircon, jumping in a swimming pool on a hot day, or even fans will kill you. So many deaths happen every year because people are afraid of being shocked to death from going from hot to cold too quickly. If you ever fall off a ship ferry at sea and were lucky enough to be spotted, don't try to swim your way to safety. The more you try to swim, the lesser the chances of survival. Just try to keep afloat and conserve energy and body heat while rescue team do what they're supposed to. Unless you are in hypothermic waters, the best bet always is to stay afloat without trying to swim to somewhere. This information about falling overboard, hypothermia and conditions, survival at sea etc. are based on my own experience of 12 years sailing on merchant ship. Example: drinking alcohol to stay warm. You sweat. Your blood will rush to your skin and you will freeze die much faster. Edit. People seem curious about this. Here is a good link. Capital L, 2. As suggested by another Redditor. Edit 3. Actual Mythbusters link provided by another Redditor. Not to mention it thins your blood. I remember reading about the Royal Navy giving rescued sailors during the Battle of the Atlantic rum to warm them up. Their survival rate was hugely improved when they stopped. Edit. Okay. It doesn't thin your blood. I heard wrong. The thinning of blood doesn't play as a big a factor as does your blood vessels dilating. This in turn causes increased blood flow near the surface of the skin, which heats your skin up. This becomes a problem because of the way your skin and ultimately your body regulates temperature. Your skin has thermosensors, but they don't just detect temperature intuitively, but rather through the rate at which heat can be transferred to from you. That is why you can touch two separate things of different material, that is, metal and cloth, which are at the same temperature, and yet you'll perceive one as colder/hotter than the other. The metal is transferring heat from you faster than cloth, so would feel cold. Now, because alcohol sort of sabotages this mechanism by indirectly heating up your skin from increased blood flow, your skin isn't actually able to accurately detect the difference in temperature between the air and yourself. As a result, you feel warm but in reality are losing heat faster than you would have had you not drank. If you input your PIN number backwards in an ATM, it will withdraw money, but it will be stuck, and the police will be notified in the event of a robbery. It's completely false, and you could get killed or seriously hurt if you play dumb like you don't know your PIN. This would really suck for someone whose PIN was something like 2552. Navy basic first aid taught that when you apply a tourniquet, you write the time you applied the tourniquet over the tourniquet and you leave it. Let the medics handle everything. They made us write it on the victim's forehead with the blood from the incident. That you can eat what animals eat. Not true. Animals have different digestion systems that aren't the same as humans. I've heard if it's a bird you shouldn't eat what they eat, but you can eat what bears eat. Still not too helpful unless there's an abundance of bears around you. Still not too helpful unless there's an abundance of bears around you, in which case you have bigger problems. One thing you see out in older movies and even today is to conserve your water if you're in a desert or if you lack water. Never do that. If all you do is drink enough to stop being thirsty, the water won't reach necessary organs and parts of your body. Over time you'll be underhydrated and can suffer the effects of dehydration without ever feeling thirsty. The best usage of your water is to drink at a set interval even if you're not thirsty. Also, don't drink large amounts of water all at once. Your body won't be used to it, and more of it is going to be wasted via urination than if you space out reasonably sized swigs throughout the day. In the same vein, if you are ever hiking, working, or going to be outside in hot and dry climates, leave the shorts and tank top at home, and instead go for thin and loose fitting long sleeve shirts and loose fitting pants. The biggest threat to your health is the sun. Avoid direct sun exposure whenever possible. Sunblock is solid enough for shorter trips, but you're going to be sweating off even the best of the stuff, so be sure to constantly reapply when directed to, or if your skin gets too wet. Loose fitted clothing also helps slow down how fast your sweat will evaporate into the air. Normally you want to have sweat evaporators, that is how your body will lose the excess heat, as the sweat will draw heat away from your body and cool you down when wind hits you. But in this case you're losing sweat too fast for your body to transfer much if any heat, as the sun is hot enough to evaporate your sweat as soon as you start sweating. Limiting your evaporation also stops you from wasting a ton of water via constantly sweating, which is one of the biggest factors of water loss you should avoid. Think about stereotypical Arabian clothes. They're loose and they cover basically everything except your face. I don't know, but I'm willing to bet that this is why. Yep. And the fabric is lighter and more breathable than it looks. And those same garments that keep you cool during the heat of the day can also help you warm during those cold desert nights. Not quite as sexy and interesting as the rest of these, but if you're walking alone at night, putting a key between each finger, with the thought that you can punch someone and they'll be impaled by 3 keys, is useless. You are much more likely to hurt the webbing on your fingers, since the grip you have on each key will be really weak. Instead, put a single key between your thumb and forefinger, parallel to your thumb, and make a fist. This still isn't a great defense, but it is an improvement over simply a fist. Also, don't try to kick a man in the crotch unless you have an amazing shot, in which case, you're probably better off running anyway. If you miss or don't kick hard enough, both of which are more likely in the case when you're likely panicking, you are just going to cause mild discomfort and piss him off even more. There was a girl I knew in college who got assaulted. She took the whole handful of keys with the keys coming out at the bottom of her fist and just went to town on the guy's face. It worked and the guy was arrested because the facial injuries made him easy to recognize. Probably not the best tactic, but hard object plus adrenaline got the job done. My mom had a 6-inch baton attached to her keyring. So, if she needed a weapon, she'd hold onto the baton and just wail on the guy with the keys. Edit. I should also add that my mom had a ridiculous amount of keys. So, she was basically just carrying around a small mace.
It's the quenchiest!
Whoa, you made it to the end? Nice. If you liked it, don't forget to subscribe and like. I'm a new channel, and it helps a lot more than you think. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.